July the 21st, 2024, we have a big old full moon at 29 degrees of Capricorn, a potent, powerful degree in the ancient tradition of astrology. It's one of culminations, endings, turbulence, and it's also connected to the end of a very long cycle of energy that we've been experiencing of Pluto moving through Capricorn since 2008. And this, well, December of 2007. And this energy is coming to a complete closure when we get to November 19th. So this last full moon in Capricorn at the last degree of Capricorn is incredibly important, not just for the day of the moon, the 2 weeks of the moon, but in the months that follow. Because this is the closure of a long energy, a long cycle that included the United States Pluto return, which often is associated with the death and rebirth cycle in national identities, and in our own lives. Whatever your Capricorn whole sign house is about, as this lunation occurs on the 21st of July at 29 degrees of Capricorn, it is also quite indicative of something that is coming to a completion, because it is where Pluto has been that this completion is happening. And that's where you've had transformation, death, rebirth, powerful depth of awareness, and even wealth and power. Now, just so you understand this, I want you to really pause for a second and really think about this. The moon happens at 29 degrees of Capricorn. Every time we have a lunation, it has a rollout of 6 months, because then 6 months later, we have a new moon in Capricorn. And therefore, what happens between the 21st of July and 6 months later? Pluto will retrograde from the early degrees of Aquarius and cross the threshold to 29 Capricorn on September the 2nd, and will stay at 29 Capricorn until November the 19th. That does overlap with the election, for example, in the United States of America in November. We can count, therefore, on this 29-degree full moon in Capricorn in your life, my life, and the world at large to be strongly connected to global themes of profound change in areas of reality that have been active for over a decade. So we're going to break it down for your sign. We're going to go into detail about how to use this moon, what it might be for. I also find it like at an eerily a spooky kind of Sabian symbol. Sometimes I draw the Sabian symbols in, and it's a symbol that has had multiple interpretations. The general gist is a secret business conference. And in the writing of James Burgess, based on the interpretation of astrologer Dane Rudhyar, the other little way of describing it is a secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. Well, if we can't admit we're in a gerontocracy in which the old men are ruling the world, or have been, especially in political discourse, political power, nothing else but the last debacle of the recent United States election process, build up, debate, etc., has made that clear. But it's also true that as Pluto at this secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs is what the 29th degree is about, a full moon is a full light. It is literally, you go out and you can do things under the full moon that you cannot do in the darkness of a new moon. The moon, when it is full, is like a flashlight. It is shining on the last degree, 29 Capricorn. In Sabian land, you round it up to Capricorn 30. And to me, this is going to shed light on things that have been hidden from view. Because what Pluto tells us is always about things that have been hidden from view. It's the power behind the power. It's the machinations and the corruption. It's what evolutionary astrologer Stephen Forrest calls, as Pluto transited since 2008 through Capricorn, a story of the dark fathers. So we're going to have revelations about the things that dark fathers, or we could say patriarchal culture or corporatocracy or wealth and power and influence, the deep state, for those of you who use that term, have been up to in the 6 months after this moon. Because 29 degrees is culminating, it's the ending of a whole sign. It indicates a moon that's for the world about completions and endings, but also revelations and seeing things that have been hidden from view. You can bet your bottom dollar that September the 2nd, no malarkey, through to November the 19th, right, is going to be very much outpictured from the ingredients of a full moon at 29 Capricorn, because again, September 2nd to November 19th, Pluto, right, is back in Capricorn. It's on October 11th, by the way, for those of you who want to know, that as he's sort of sitting at 29 degrees and very slowly moving backwards from virtue of our perspective on Earth, that October 11th, he moves direct. And then he's by November 19th, leaving Capricorn for the rest of our lives. Congratulations, all of my Cap rising folks who've told me all about their journeys. It's no longer you, it's the Aquarians who get the next 2 decades of this energy. So we're going to break it down in detail, but I also want to say one more thing, just one more thing. If you're new to my channel, did I say all this? I'm Lori Lothian. I'm using the whole sign house system. This is Western tropical zodiac astrology. I love the fixed stars and minor asteroids. The only thing I'm promoting or sharing with you in July is to remind you my Sky Reader course is starting in September. How to get into that course, make sure you get the early bird discount. Actually get in it all before it fills, is to get on the wait list. 6 weeks live with me. Be your own astrologer, time your best life. In the description box, click the more button. You will see the link to everything I have in my world, my website and stuff, including that wait list or early bird notice wait list. And I'll try to remember to pin it to the comments at some point. And if you want to get my 2024 All Signs video bundle, it's now on my summer sale price, $33 for 12 videos. Each of those videos is 90 minutes. Each of those videos covers your sun, moon, and rising. Like you can buy one, you can listen for all, share with friends and family. And if you would like to get my a la cartes, they're only $14 now, summer sale, for your 90-minute video, and you can listen for your whole sign and get the gist of it, whether it's your sun, your moon, or your rising. Most of you listen for your rising and or sun. Moon is useful too. Second thing I want to say before we get going is, why would you listen for your rising sign? Because it's everything about you. But think of the avatar in a video game or the character in the movie. And then the actor of that character is your sun, your core central nature, your true self, but it also often represents your career and purpose. Whereas the moon is representative often of your body, your home, and your safety needs. And sometimes your emotional and mental attitudes towards your own life. So that's why listening to all three can be quite useful. Alrighty, so let's get started. First thing I want to say, and I'm recording this for my Patreon community today on July the 9th, early access ad-free, is I want to say that we're often like daunted by Pluto. We think about him as this like archetypal grim reaper. That's Saturn. Saturn's your grim reaper. Pluto isn't that. Pluto is wealth, riches, power. The god of the underworld in the ancient tradition was the god of riches, but there's riches under the surface. There's treasure buried under the ground. There's gold and silver and precious metals and precious gems under the ground. And Pluto's underworld realm is full of riches. So instead of being afraid of Pluto, as Pluto is very much a part of this moon, because the moon is at 29 degrees and Pluto is like at 1 degree of the sign of Aquarius on the fixed star Altair. This moon is technically also connected to Altair, the star that's the eye of the eagle in the constellation of Aquila, the eagle. So I want to remind you of that too, but don't be afraid of Pluto is where I was going. It can be the riches of discovery, the riches of transformation, the riches of revelation, the riches of metamorphosis, okay? The snake that sheds the skin, the caterpillar becomes a butterfly, the chaos and conflict that create transformation and renewal and regeneration, the phoenix rising from ashes, all of those. Now, what about the idea that Altair is here on Pluto and on the moon? The moon is actually an orb of Altair. Altair on this full moon is that star that is associated with the symbol of the eagle and the eye of the eagle. And that's the United States symbol, the eagle. It's really going to be a lunation that's very much embedded in the United States election in November. So we're going to talk about the global story with this particular moon. Also, we're going to talk about its relationship to the war in the Middle East. I can't cover everything in the world. Okay, 55% of my subscribers are from the United States. I really am just trying my best to cover things that are in the topical news cycle as best as I can. I will start a new channel next year, maybe just about mundane or world astrology. That said, the eye of the eagle is a military star, and it was used in the ancient world to like choose a good time to go to battle, to tell the king when the war battle winnings are most likely, to look at it as an omen of success or failure in war and battle. And it's the eye of the eagle, and it's about winning It's about winning in military conquest. Now, we're looking at a lot of military stories going on, of course. So we might bring that idea of a military star on a full moon to bear in our delineations today. Who does this moon impact the most? Who are the people who need to put it on the radar more than others astrologically, right? Just as a general thought, right? Obviously, the cardinal sign people. That would be the Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn. You guys are either square opposite or conjunct the moon. And I don't care if you have a 29-degree placement or not. 29 Aries, Sun, Moon, Rising, Libra, blah, blah, blah. Because in the ancient tradition of India, a whole sign house style as well, it's still an elemental or a cardinal square or opposition or conjunction. It is in this moon that's full at 29 Capricorn at a culminating anaretic, powerful intensity degree is still square all of the Aries placements, still square all of the Libra placements, still opposite all of the Cancer placements, still conjunct all of the Capricorn placements, just by the signage, we call it co-present with in the Hellenistic tradition. And what I am interested in thinking about is the Aries North Node around 10 degrees of Aries and the Libra South Node at 10 degrees of Libra, that these nodal axes have also been implicated because this full moon is squaring the nodes where the eclipses have been ongoing since the first eclipse last April of 23. The one is April in Aries, the total solar eclipse that swathed the United States. The one October 21st, it cut through the ascendant of Israel that also swathed across the United States in Libra. The whole eclipse cycle is going to be in a broad involvement to the lunation itself. It can bring a completion, an end to the war in the Middle East. I'll explain why once I show you the chart. Now, Capricorn 30 or 29 rounds up to 30 in Sabian symbols. I'm looking at jamesburgess.com. I do like his writing. And his words for this are highest level of social influence. Society is structured hierarchically, and there are small groups of people who secretly direct the course of history. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I am observing that there are reasons things are happening that make no sense to the normal common man with a logical brain who thinks, why is this happening, right? Why is the United States massively funding and a war that most of the world is objecting to? What is follow the money would be the great story, or follow the gains, the power gains. Who stands to benefit from this particular event, this war in the Middle East? And in that regard, this symbol is about that. It's about the worst of what Stephen Forrest called the Dark Fathers. And I'm going to read a little bit more about what James Burgess has to say about this degree. He didn't write it for this moon. This is what he says about this degree, no matter what planet is here natally, what planet transits this degree itself. Sabian symbols are channel symbols by Elsie Wheeler in the 1930s for each of the degrees of the zodiac. So here's this little write-up. In the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Great power comes when we can see what others do not see. We can grasp opportunity, avoid calamity and inconvenience, influence people, and make sound decisions for ourselves. A group of highly awakened individuals together form the ruling executive power over the world affairs, notwithstanding the rise and fall of political fashions, nations, and economic economic blocks. I can add economic blocks, by the way, like the BRICS nation, to the idea of anything Capricornian, but it's also a bit Aquarian. These can see what the masses do not see. These two sides must exist in this phenomena. The dark aspect is revealed as a satanic elite that selfishly controls the wealth and laws of the world. There's also a hierarchy of light beings equally powerful yet focused on keeping open the path to freedom and complete realization. We need to choose which group to offer our attention. I leave that with you. That's the old angel and devil on each shoulder, right? I don't see the world as that way anymore, but I do and I don't. It's good for good Harry Potter fictions and Voldemort ultimately, but that's what the world runs on: the good, the bad, the evil, the light, the dark, the light. All right, so one more thing, because no one wants to be manipulated, lied to, no one wants to be out of the know. And Capricorn is all about the wealthy, the powerful, and the elite. and the people who control the money, the resources, and the power. So one more thing before we do I'm going to open up the chart. I'm going to show you the chart. We're going to talk about your sign, but before that, a little bit of world astrology about this maybe completing the war in the Middle East, about the way this may connect to the election in the United States, which is on everybody's top of mind in the news cycle right now. And then we're going to move away from that, and we're going to move into the part of the chart that is all about you. So you can listen for all of your deets, your sun, moon, and rising. All right, so let's get going, and let's start off with talking about the world, and I'll show you the sky. Before I do that, I also want to talk about this beautiful article I read a year or two ago by Stephen Forrest on the Dark Fathers. I think I can find it. I'm going to pull it up because I just want to refresh my memory of it. I remember using a bit of his newsletter, his quotes when the Gaza war broke out, Gaza-Israel thing. Is it a war? Is it a war when one side has all the weapons? Is it a war? I know there's like the law of proportionality, and I know there's other things there to talk about, like asymmetrical warfare. But one side's not a country, doesn't have a military per se, and doesn't have a shit ton of weapons. So, I heard someone say that in a podcast today, and it just made me think about it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab The Dark Fathers by Stephen Forrest, evolutionary astrologer, sweet man, in his 70s. I've taken classes with him before online. I love his energy. So I'm going to go now, and I'm going to check that out. And I'm going to be right back because I want to see why I love that article so much, because I think there might be something I'm supposed to share here. Just my intuition's nagging at me. So his article that he wrote a year ago is called The Fall of the Dark Fathers, and it's about the idea that the father archetype was considered to be Capricornius in ancient times, or Capricorn, and that although that doesn't limit itself to males, right, just the masculine and the patriarchal. So women often, like Margaret Thatcher, bless her soul, to me had a very masculine archetype, and she was a woman, but she was like masculine archetypally. And he talks about the idea here that we might create a symbol for tyrants, whether they are running nations or dominating families, with Pluto and Capricorn. And the way he talks about the idea in this article, I'm going to put it here, coming to an end. We're coming to a cycle from 2008 to now, where we've been able to see tyranny, a despot, what do you call it? A despot, tyrants, controlling forces. Reminding you guys, Pluto and Capricorn, it included Occupy Wall Street, the subprime loan scandal, bank bailouts, the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter. And by the way, in the ancient tradition, Capricorn ruled people of color. And don't ask me why. I think it's Vedic Valens, but just trust me that was a thing. And also, what other movements do we have? We had, oh my God, the Epstein sex island scandal, of course, Harvey Weinstein. So these are masculine energies in toxic, abusive, controlling ways. So he writes, since 2008, the boil has been breaking. Everywhere on earth we have been, and he wrote this article ages ago. Just to be clear, he wrote this article in September 29th, 2023. Is this a prescient man? You'll see why in a minute. In other words, feeling into the future. Okay, so what he wrote, and if you're bored with this, you can jump ahead in the timestamps. You can jump ahead to the pinned comments timestamps, but I'm hoping you'll listen, because I'm not going to cover this for your sign, but I want to share the energy that's completing here for the world. I want you to see that it's not just any old full moon. It's not just any old full moon conjunct Pluto and the fixed star Altair. It's deeper than that. Okay, so I just lost my place. So let me go back. Since 2008, the boil has been breaking. Everywhere on earth, we've been looking at the rise of the Dark Fathers. There's nothing subtle or esoteric about any of this. You've seen it in the headlines and on the news. You know their names too: Putin, Trump, Kim Jong-un, Netanyahu, Bolsonaro, Orban. So I don't know some of them. I do know most of them. And of course, he did name Netanyahu, September 29th of 2023. Most of you can probably add a few more names to the list without much effort. You can probably take it further by getting a little closer to home. Maybe one of these dark fathers is your boss. Maybe one is your father or your father-in-law. They're not all in the headlines, and they're not even all male. All right. And he goes deeper into the archetype of Pluto and the father archetype. So because it's a great article, I am pinning it I'll put it in the description box under the more button for you to get into. Pluto reveals. Pluto doesn't always just do bad things. It can be like the excavation of what's under the surface. And that's why we've had the scandals of Sex Island, Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, Me Too, Black Lives Matter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so let's go ahead and show you the chart so you'll know what's happening here. And by the way, this is being recorded July the 9th. You're going to get it like on the Sunday, a few days later. But if you really like the idea of getting this content before the public, and also, ad free, and also more, you can comment there, and I'll definitely get back to your comments more than I have a chance to do on my thousands of comments on YouTube. That more intimate community is patreon.com/lunatic astrology, or you can Google it, or you can find the link to my Patreon community in the description box. Sometimes people go, what's your description box? I can't find anything. What about, who are you? And I surprise people watch YouTube and they don't know that there's a box of a ton of information about me. And everything, all my links and my websites underneath the videos, and hit that little more button with the ... and it opens the whole thing up and you scroll down. Okay. So here we have the sky. This is the July 21st, 2024 timeframe. The moon is sitting at 29 degrees. The sun is at 29 degrees. The exact degree, it doesn't really matter to me. But just for some of you people who are mathematicians of numerology, let's make it exact for you, because there's always a number that every moon has. So this is 29 degrees and 8 minutes. So that's 2 plus 9 is 11 plus 8 is 19. That's actually the sun card in the tarot. Or it's also the archetypal magician, and when you reduce it to a 1. I like the sun card. It's about happiness, innocence, joy. I do think, though, that the solar energy is also a male energy. So we have that, the moon represents the mother and the feminine. The sun represents the masculine energy in a chart, one of the meanings. So we see a lot of doubling down on the masculine, the patriarchal, and the power structures. But also the sun represents the word leader. So we could see completion, endings, secret meetings. Remember, from the Sabian symbol regarding leaders. Well, there's a lot going on already on July the 9th about particular leaders that may complete or fulfill or end or be revealed, or a spotlight will be on them around a completion cycle. Of course, one of them is Joe Biden after the debate and after the interviews, and there's a lot of intense press around him about whether or not he will or should stick in or not. And as I record, the latest breaking headline, of course, is the Parkinson's doctors that visited and all of that. So, just saying that story can very much be really connected to this full moon that's happening in the sign of leadership, power struggle, power structures. United States of America is a Sagittarius rising. Here, Joe Biden is a Sagittarius rising, and Netanyahu is a Sagittarius rising. That can mean that those three people, will have this full moon completion in the second house. The second house is a house of one's voice, vocation, earnings, possessions, self-worth, self-esteem. It's literally a house where we give voice to something, right? One of the comments I got a lot of, stuff going on the internet was the very soft, hard to hear, raspy voice of Joe Biden's cold. And then now today, as July 9th, Parkinson's experts saying that voice, along with the gait and the toe first step and the shuffle, is connected to symptoms of Parkinson's. Now, I am telling you this only from the perspective of news cycle stories that may connect to the full moon, because something will complete to do with leadership, to do with power structures, and Capricorn is usually bureaucracy, governments, leaders in that regard. And I am literally not telling you I prefer Biden over Trump or Trump over Biden. I don't like either of them. And I'm living in Canada, and I've never voted in my own country once in my life, let alone the United States. So therefore, I'm just observing the sky and making stories about it. And that's called mundane astrology relative to world events. I also cover cultural events as well. And, one thing also I note about it is that the nation of Israel, the war began as an eclipse occurred on the ascendant of Israel last fall. The fourth house for Israel represents land, property, real estate, well, home and homeland. And that's a big problem, right? In that right now that there's the idea of the West Bank and all of the, what do you call it, annexing land and the settlers that are decimating the homes of the Palestinian people in the West Bank. And all of this is illegal, including the 700,000 people who have now moved since Pluto went into Capricorn in 2008 into the West Bank. And those settlers, those illegal occupants of the West Bank, by very Zionistic and very religious Israeli people, and not us all from Israel, they come from all over the world, just to occupy the land of their forefathers or that God promised them. That's a problem, right? In terms of the legalities. And the problem I'm seeing here is that Pluto started that expansion of settlements in 2008 into the West Bank. And the energy of that is now coming to a completion, a fulfillment, or an ending. All full moons are that. Watch for the next 6 months for some serious global interventions, discussion, restrictions around land. And what is the greater Israel? From the river to the sea, because that mantra belongs to Israel as well. And so maybe a lot of you don't know, but Netanyahu got up in front of a bunch of people, I think it was the United Nations, and showed a picture of the greater Israel. It didn't include Gaza or the West Bank. And in that sense, I just really want to be clear. I'm not choosing, to say yay or nay. I'm just telling you facts. Facts, go Google them, is that when you have a completion moon this intense, in the fourth house of a country currently expanding its territory, that could simply say the completion of the end, but it's also the flashlight on that expansion and what the cost of that expansion has been, right? So stay tuned for this moon and the 6 months that follow to unfold narratives about the war in the Middle East. It may complete the war in the Middle East as it rolls back, as Pluto rolls back over the 29th degree where this full moon happened, rolls back September 8th through to November the 19th with a pivot turning around on October 11th. You're going to see big turning point stories in the Middle East. There's no two ways about it. All right. In the United States of America, this is a financial part of the Sibly natal chart. And because we have Mars Uranus on fixed star Algol, which I believe is the sun in the New York Stock Exchange chart, I do believe we're going to see a major stock market correction of some sort. This Mars Uranus conjunction that happened on, by the time you listen to this, happening or will be happening, it happened already for this video, happening on July the 15th. Doesn't all happen on July the 15th. Sure, 14th, 15th, 16th. There can be some, corrections in the stock markets in the United States. That could happen. But also that Mars-Uranus conjunction foretells a 2-year story, a cycle, synodic cycle. It will connect to more acute events that occur in the 2 or 3 months that follow. Based on my tracking of the history of these conjunctions, you'll get the lay of the land. And one of the problems with that is that Algol is a star of off with their head, decapitation. Who and what is decapitated? Well, Algol's on the sun of the stock market in the United States. Okay, fine. A decapitation of the markets, losing the head, a crisis moment. Maybe what he called a black swan moment could come not only July 15th, but in the months that follow. And my eye is always drawn to September 2nd to November 19th because of Pluto's return to the 29th degree of Capricorn, where this lunation happens. But also, it is that conjunction that is going to square Donald Trump's Mars ascendant combination also at the same time on his midheaven for his career and reputation and public reputation. So he could have a fall from power. He could have a shocking surprise development regarding his public life. He could have physical harm done to him because his ascendant is in the harm's way of Mars Uranus. Now, Mars Uranus is often terrorism, and we're hopefully not going to have a terrorist event, but that's also possible. So I got those stories there. I'm just telling you what the sky says. What can you do? Biden's also in trouble, by the way, from the Mars-Uranus conjunction, because it is literally opposite his sun. Sun is vitality, sun is career. It's in the house where his moon is, and his moon is currently square Pluto and square his solar arc Pluto. The guy's under a lot of difficult stress. In India, the body, the moon is your mind. right? Your mind. His mind is square Pluto by transit. Transit Pluto squares his natal moon at 0 Taurus. There was an eclipse on his moon in October 28th last year. His solar arc Pluto and the solar arc chart for him is opposite his moon. His moon is his mind or his body, also his public appeal. If you're a politician, all of those are under incredible, like crucible energies of intensity in the sky. And when you add the Mars Uranus conjunction, which is highly volatile, like an electric bolt, like the Tower in the Tarot, opposite his sun for his Scorpio sun for career stuff. This is how intense it is for both Biden and Trump. Again, I don't like either. And let's keep moving. And I don't hate either. I'm just doing your astrology. Okay, so we're going to move now to the all signs portion of the reading. That's just a general idea of what this guy might be offering for the world. There are many other ways it can play out and probably will play out. A full moon in Capricorn is in a square to a stellium of planets in the chart of Tulsi Gabbard, who has like maybe 3 or 4 planets plus the asteroid America in her Aries part of her sky. We don't have a birth time, so I can't tell you what her rising is, but this will definitely activate and indicate some part of her story, maybe becoming very highlighted this fall, if not before then, in the 2 weeks after the moon. Any lunation has a 2-week interval afterwards until the next new moon, full moon cycle. There may be a lot of Tulsi Gabbard in the new cycle, possibly. I think Gretchen Whitmer's ascendant is angular, like Aries Libra, and midheaven is Capricorn Cancer. So she could come into the new cycle a bit more predominantly. We're talking about in the 2 weeks that follow the new moon. And I'm picking on women because of many videos I've done to explain, especially with Venus in Leo and Mercury in Leo, women kings, women leaders in power. Stories are apt to be there for us. Now, of course, celebrities too, but I don't care about the celebrity world. Really, I don't. Okay. Not that much. Let's go ahead and do your sign. As you can see this moon is here. It's conjunct Pluto and fixed star Altair, the war star, victory in war, the eye of the eagle. But also you may note that this is also a moon at 29 degrees, sextiling Neptune at 29 degrees. And also trining Uranus at 26 degrees. So those factors do matter. There is something about that matters. It creates a mini grand trine, which is auspicious or positive energy. And we'll address that in your sign. For the world, of course, it's allowing for Neptune retrograde to pull back the fog as a tide reveals what's under the froth of illusion, delusion, and spin cycles. That's what a Neptune retrograde is. Sobers us up when Neptune's retrograde. So we're being sobered up collectively about delusions, illusions, manipulations, spin cycles, misinformation, disinformation, and we're all seeing more clearly what's true. As the fog is lifting, the tide is receding. We see what's underneath the surface. Pluto is participating with that moon in a sextile to Neptune as he's also retrograding, revealing power plays and toxic dark father stories that were hidden maybe under the surface. And then we have Uranus, the shock and awe, surprise, unexpected factor in the sign of Taurus. And when this is occurring, Taurus rules the stock markets. Uranus is still on the sun, I think, of the New York Stock Exchange. It's one of those indices in the United States. And I'm pretty sure it's New York Stock Exchange has sun on Algol. It's a wealth star. So, but we have Uranus for the unpredictable, the erratic, and the shocking. So who knows what's going to happen, right? With Mars there, it doesn't feel good to me, and yet it maybe there's a sudden uptick in the markets. I doubt that. I can't see what economic impetus. I might be more like a black swan event could be indicated here. And finally, the other energy going on is because every full moon reflects the light of the sun. You can see that the sun at 29 degrees is also trining Neptune and is also sextiling Uranus. And of course, that is another mini grand trine. And so there's something good trying to happen in the world, though it will surprise us, though it will connect in many ways to, for example, sun is in the Israel's natal chart. It is in the house of leaders, leadership, shocking developments regarding leaders and leadership. Maybe he will, have to step down. Maybe there'll be something really triggering changes of leadership that surprise everyone over the 6 months that follow this particular lunation. Anybody else I need to talk about? For now, that's good. Let's go ahead and do the all signs. So before we do the all signs, did you subscribe? Did you share the video, or will you share the video? All these things do help my channel grow. And I have a Patreon community where I love to connect to people. And what I like about Patreon is I have an easy way to reach you guys should somehow I be, say, no longer on YouTube. As well, you can check out my Cosmic Moonshine newsletter, which is a weekly forecast. I have 10,000 subscribers to that. And if you're into, not 10,000, how many? Almost 6,500. And if you're into astrology for weekly updates that are written by me that has content you won't find on YouTube, of course, sign up for that as well. You get all kinds of special perks and early bird discounts and notifications just by being on the newsletter as well. And last but not least, I may be starting a join button for channel perks on YouTube. I've been resistant to do that. YouTube has a way of doing things that I don't particularly prefer. So if you've been if you've been unsubscribed during June, I told this to people a couple of weeks ago, and I'm having so much feedback. YouTube said they told me in customer service they were scrubbing bots off my channel. I think other channels as well. And they unsubbed hundreds, well, first of all, thousands of subscribers were dumped from my channel in June, thousands. But many of those people had subscribed, and they were real people, and they've been longtime followers. So please check to see if you're still subscribed. If you want to be subscribed, there's a good chance that a lot of you have been unsubscribed and you don't know it. So go check it out. Okay, let's get going. Let's start, of course, with Aries. All right, guys. So let's get started. Like, we're going to talk all about you. And you are important. So I'm going to do my best to give you the best of what this is about. Please go back and listen to the Mars Uranus video. There is a webinar, but by the time you get this video, you will have missed the webinar on the Mars Uranus conjunction. But I'll try to put the replay link access in the description box. It's worth getting because it's really not about what happened on July 15th, but what will happen in the 2 years afterwards in your life. And it's a last in a lifetime event. Okay, we're starting with Aries, obviously. Let's just cue for Aries, and we move it back. I hope I remember to put Dark Fathers in there. Okay, this is not a long video. I usually do now these days, I do a moon update video, usually about a day or two before the moon. And the reason I do that is algorithmically. YouTube will highlight that because it's in the SEO. And right now, when I put this out like 1 or 2 weeks before, then I noticed that the SEO tags don't pick up very well. And these first versions never perform that well, which is really not great. And one of my favorite other astrologers who just went roaring past the 100,000 finish line recently, like a few months ago, I see that she was doing that and it really helped her channel grow. So I'm doing the same thing. So you'll be getting this video, and then it's kind of an update with a different spin closer to the moon. So let's roll. Aries, sun, moon, and rising sign. The first thing I want to note here is that this is going to be, importantly, the completion of some cycle of career endeavor that you started in 2008, because this culminating light in the end of the 29th degree of your career house is exactly what it sounds like. Don't forget, you've had Pluto and you've had full moons in your sky since 2008 with Pluto up there. What have you been trying to do, Aries, sun, moon, and rising, to be fulfilling your career, ambitions, power, wealth, energies? Ever since 2008. And every time you had a full moon there, you were culminating, completing, or shining the light brightly. But this is an end cycle, you see. You're no longer going to be shining the light in the 10th with the full moons every month. They're going to start to be, for 20 years, an Aries narrative. So this is completing a cycle. Now, the ruler of the moon, the lunation lord, is Saturn, and he's in your 12th house. And there's a clue there. And the clue is simple. What is it that needs to complete in your career cycle connected to 12th house matters? It could be to do with foreigners, foreign shores, foreign lands, revenue generated from international entities. But deeper than that, Saturn is like sage-like Yoda wisdom in the 12th house, like he's the ashram guy. So where are you also culminating a bunch of career ambition, but in a way that Saturn says, and we stabilize and we give structure and form to our spiritual life, to our awakening process, to our spiritual liberation, moksha, the final frontier, nirvana, samadhi, the full Monty in the 12th house of Buddhahood. That's what Saturn would like for you. And he flows to this completion power and wealth in the 10th house, and victory and winning, because the Altair star is there. Look to September, October, and November to be an exquisite time for financial success. That's how I see it, as Pluto comes back and lifts you higher than ever, or more power and whatever you wanted to achieve up there, power, wealth, fame, glory. It's going to kind of culminate September to November 19th, but then you're done and you may step away from something there. You may no longer want to do the thing you've been focused on. I do want to note that the moon is shining brightly and happily and lovingly to Neptune, who's rolling back the confusion, but he's the enlightenment god in the enlightenment house, and also leaving behind addictive patterns, especially from the mama's side of the family and the dad's side of the family, sun opposite moon. And one thing also to note is Uranus is being activated. What the heck? What are the shocking, surprising, culminating wealth factors in your savings, earnings, and possessions in a positive way that this full moon wishes to reveal to you, not only 2 weeks after, but even in the 6 months that follow, especially September 2nd to November 19th, when Pluto activates the place where the moon was sitting. I feel like this is not only a culminating, ending, turning point for an area of ambition that's preoccupied you for a long time, since 2008, but it's also the time that ends like finish strong with greater power and wealth than you imagine was possible as you complete one cycle to move into a new Pluto cycle in your 11th. We'll do a whole video on that soon. If I use my Aries sun, which is career, moon, home and nest, rising, I'm not rising, everything about me, but if I use me as an example with an Aries sun, I'd say it was around 2008 that I began to move away from my past career path and move into a new one in the online digital world. And it was when I sold a product to tarot.com. And that was what they called the clutch product. They made a lot of money off of it. I made a very little, like a royalty from a book, but they ran that product for a decade. And I actually sold it to them in 2007. I think it came out in 2008. And that was Pluto moving through my 10th house. I've done nothing but digital life, online life, editor, Elephant Journal, and, Good News, a HuffPo columnist, and all this stuff. I was a journalist, by the way, and so editor journalist. And so, but it's also just online. For me, Pluto was online. What you think? Aries listening to me today. Aries, the least likely sign to listen, just FYI, on my YouTube numbers. What the heck were you doing since 2008 in that career space? Because this is your culmination. This is your ending moon, your fulfillment, completion, but it ends strong. When someone born with Uranus in the second house, rags to riches, riches to rags. Uranus has been in rags to riches, riches to rags here since 2018. If you went from riches to rags, then you're going to go if you went from riches to rags since 2018, this culminating moon can bring you from the opposite way, from rags to riches. And if you went the other way, who knows? But Uranus here often is unpredictable amount of money in your bank account or your savings or your possessions, right? Up and down like a yo-yo. Anyway, I don't think I'm worried about this for any of our Aries folk out there listening, because we have such divine flow to Neptune as well, and Saturn bringing structure and form with Neptune to all things that is our financial. And that's about it. I will be doing another update video covering another angle on this, but I'm not going to tell you what that is. So stay tuned for video 2, closer to the moon. We're looking at a Taurus moon, sun, moon, and rising, full moon, big energy, completing, ending, something to do with your 9th house, higher education completions, educational, travel opportunity, foreign lands, visas, court, and legal matters. Now, no one goes to school since 2008. It's, depends on the degree of your Taurus ascendant, but Tauruses have been going through a lot of power, intensity, transformation, Pluto in this 9th house of God. And some of you has been spiritually intense as well. But it's also to do with legal matters and courts and third marriages is your 9th house. And Pluto's been up there transforming it. for a long time, 2008. This moon is tied to that cycle completing itself. The lunation is full. Please listen to the intro. I'm going to tell everybody this because I cover stuff I'm not going to repeat here so you can understand it. But the full moon is completing and fulfilling something in the top of your sky. It's a harvest season. And it's going to play out most intensely over the 6 months ahead, September 2nd to November 19th. Right? As Pluto goes to the 29th degree where this moon was sitting at the time of the moon. The moon is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is in your 11th house of karmic rewards, windfalls, pennies from heaven, great career gains. Well, no kidding. When Pluto enters your 10th house, you're going to do what the Aries have already done. So check out the Aries to hear out your next cycle over 20 years ahead. But like, guys, this is like Saturn wants to give form and structure to anything he touches and wisdom. And he's in that very powerful 11th house of good spirit. So as he witnesses the moon happening in his home kingdom, he's kind of like, okay, you're going to complete something in that 9th house cycle. And I want to translate that over here. You know, do you need a wise ally or benefactor who's older than you? Do you need to find some kind of new forms and structures for career gains? Do you need to get a consolidating financial windfall that supports something in your life going forward? This is also a fullness here with that moon in a way that wants to cooperate with Neptune, rolling back the delusional fog, the confusion and uncertainty, the miasma of something you can't see clearly, like the mirage. And now Neptune's retrograde, you can see it clearly. It's that friend, it's that elder sibling, it's that group of belonging, it's that social circles that you now see more clearly. And so the moon is fulfilling 9th house matters. And so for some of you, this can look like clarity around educational or spiritual communities you no longer wish to be a part of, completing and ending, the tide pulls back, but also the sex in a positive way, in a way that's easy and flowing because it's a sextile. And the moon is in a trine to Uranus. Don't forget the Uranus-Mars conjunction just happened here. Go get the webinar replay. Go watch the video for your sign to your reset. But the flow to Uranus is still an Algol. It's still intense there, the star of decapitation, but the flow is powerful from the moon. Completing 9th house matters in a way that lead to unexpected change of directions and surprises from your 1st house. You are pivoting in a radically shocking, freedom-loving new direction to the surprise of your very own self as you complete some fulfillment of 9th house matters. Let me say one more thing. The 9th house is your dharma. It's kind of like the meaning of your life, and you're culminating it. You might have thought the meaning of my life is to be a perfect student. My meaning of my life is to be going to church every Sunday. My meaning of my life is to cleave to traditions or whatever you were doing with that. That's closing out. You're going to get a new meaning of your life as this Pluto moon energy is completing something there. I mean, honestly, when Pluto went through your 9th house since 2008, did you have a toxic, bad story with a creepy pastor or a abusive priest or some guru behaving badly? I mean, did you have a big, massive, holy man, did this really happen to me? Legal matter, lawsuit, court stories? Were you traumatized and re-traumatized by your higher educational settings and the dark fathers that could have been there, like your wicked professor? Your tyrannical, hierarchical forces? Let me know. So anyway, that's changing. So good news for that. So, and also, the happy part of the story here for you guys, really is Pluto going into your 10th house. It's not that bad. Aries sun, I quite enjoyed it. I got very successful, very wealthy, very powerful in the careers I pursued while Pluto was moving through my 10th house. And that's coming for you for the next 20 years. We'll be doing a whole video on that. Again, I've done more than one video on that. Go check my Pluto playlist in my description box. On my channel. Gemini, sun, moon, and rising sign. Let's roll. Number one, what you've got going on here is the big full moon completing Anaretic, ending a cycle, catalytic energies as this culminating lunation tells us. This is where Pluto's been traveling and full mooning with me. Everybody since 2008, and I'm done. We're done. We're finished this story. Pluto, moon, full moons, new moons, eighth house stuff done. Well, Pluto's secrets and hidden variables, and it was going through the house of, betrayals, incest. I'm sorry, I probably can't say that word here. Infidelities, sex secrets, bad shit, trauma stories is very eighth house. And also your chunky money you share with the spouse, inheritance money. It's a lot of intensity about that story since 2008. And as Pluto is leaving here, forever now, for your lifetime, moving into Aquarius, it's behind you. It's in the rearview mirror. This full moon completes that cycle, right? This full moon says, we're shining a spotlight to get the last light on what you need to see here, and we're moving on. And it's doing that with Saturn, the ruler of the lunation, the owner of the Capricorn sky, in your 10th house of career. And it's an interesting placement. For some reason, Saturn, when he's up here, he's the wise one, the expert authority. He's culminating. He's like sage at the top of the heavens, but he's also tired. And he might be getting ready to step away. I find a lot of people's lives, when Saturn transits their 10th house, predictably, they begin to look at ways to complete a cycle in their work. And quite often they'll end that cycle or leave the work behind, or they achieve a high level of mastery. But there's something called the doom loop, where you hit the highest level of mastery and you get bored. And Saturn up here might be getting close to that. So just keep it in mind. But Saturn is like, okay, I'm also up here, and I might be in 2 years, I'm leaving this house, telling us to leave our career path behind, retire out, or whatever. And I'm looking squarely at eighth house matters. Eighth house is a moksha house, liberating yourself from an identity that doesn't serve you. That can be a job identity, a career identity, a reputation identity. So liberating from a character personhood is eighth house spiritual moksha, liberation. But also monies, right? A full moon in your eighth house, conjunct Pluto, can be about wealth. Yes, Pluto's not in the same house, but the planetary conjunction is there. And it is at 29 degrees. Don't pay attention to this. People ask me all the time, the moon moves quickly. It's never going to look like it's perfect for every sign. It's impossible to do that. And what are you not only completing, but maybe on a profound note, right? A 29th degree note, very intense in the terms of your, investments, your shared resources with others, your chunky money that you don't make in your regular day job. Money makes money in the eighth house. We want to note that the moon is also trining Uranus and sextiling Neptune. Neptune's rolling back the illusion, fog, and delusion that you have been cast spelled under for several months, indeed on and off since 2011. Now the tide is rolling back, and you're no longer deluded or imagining with rose-colored glasses highfalutin possibilities about career and reputation. So you're going to have a sober-minded view, or a realistic view, thank you, Saturn, of what's true and possible in your career. But at the same time, the moon is flowing from a financial house. You can kind of take some money off the table maybe here. And as the moon trines Uranus, that's money off the table from far off foreign shores, international revenue, and far off foreign people and places. Digital borderless income, for example, somebody in a foreign place. Or you're having eurekas, ahas, big ideas, downloadables from your nighttime sleep, daydreams, trance states, 12th house, that you can convert to money big time in your career. And the revelation is in the next 6 months. And always pay attention to September 2nd to November 19th for when this activation of this moon is really intense, thanks to Pluto coming back to the lunation degree. And I tell you guys this in the beginning, and I end up repeating it here because I know people jump their timestamps but please listen to the beginning. The intro is really good. I read a really good quote from Stephen Forrest. Go entertain yourself. Go back and listen. Cancer, Sun, Moon, and Rising sign, guys. There is a big completion in your marriage house. You've been going through a lot of transformation, death, and rebirth, intensity with your significant long-term lover, love partner, marriage partner, and or business partners if you have them, significant people in your life. Now, with Pluto going through that part of your chart, some of you Cancer risings have had death of marriages, death of people you know. Now, death of marriages, I've seen. I have a lot of Cancer rising clients and friends, and I've seen like really intense deaths of marriages, betrayals, infidelities, power struggles, control, narcissism, stuff like that. So Pluto is really teaching you a lot of lessons as Pluto went through your seventh. Some of you got married to wealthy, rich, and narcissistic, controlling people, tyrants, stuff. So tell me how it went in the comments. Some of you Cancers with that Pluto transit since 2008. Culminating ending. If you're already married, does this mean you're going to like break up? Not necessarily. There's a full spotlight shining for the last time in a Plutonian overlay into your marriage house. Expect the revelations of the spotlight of the full moon to reveal what's true in that marriage house September 2nd to November 19th, not necessarily in the 2 weeks that follow the moon. Both are possible. At the same time, there is a positive mini grand trine here. I'm focused on this one. The moon is flowing to Neptune and flowing in a trine to Uranus. First of all, there is a possibility of some surprising, unexpected developments regarding elder siblings, friends, and family in positive ways. I mean, not friends, colleagues, co-workers, career gains. Uranus in the house of the elder sibling, one above you. There's some positive, shocking surprises maybe coming from that Uranus in your 11th house, even including a possible mini windfall. And yet at the same time, while the tide is pulling back and the illusions are being dispelled as Neptune retrogrades in your 9th house. Now that involves your dharma, your purpose in life, your spiritual path, things to do with God, knowledge, wisdom, higher education, travel abroad, and visas and court matters, and so many more things. The gist is 9th house matters are very metacosmos, between the worlds, as is the energy of other houses, which are 12 and, well, there's many different, the metacosmos houses in Hellenistic astrology were houses 9, 3, 6, and 12. They do not favor wealth, success, ambition. They're all about the more intermediate liminal places of our lives. Looks to me like you are looking at a deeper spiritual energy coming through as Neptune retrogrades, and you square away with or come to terms with some kind of spiritual luminosity and revelation in relationship to your significant people in your life, in relationship to an elder sibling, or to greater, sudden, and shocking, surprising career gains. Full moon in the 7th can light up your house of marketplace and audience and clients. It is 10th house from the 10th, and it means your marketplace. Full light means good things are happening, and you got some unexpected financial windfalls from it. And it may be about something to do with teaching or learning or international exposure. Look to September 2nd to November 19th to know a little bit more about it, because Pluto will make it come alive. Leo, sun, moon, and rising. I could not have sat on a more uncomfortable seat. I shall return. Probably wondering what I'm doing. I'm sitting in my sister's house. So my shorts just about fell off because they're, oh my God, I'm laughing at myself because they're like, anyway, never mind. Okay, I had a belt on these shorts. I love these shorts. They're like kind of like, I don't know, but without the belt, they're going to fall off, and I'm trying to get comfortable. Okay. All right, did I finish up? No, Leo, sun, moon, and rising. Wow, a big full moon, lighting a spotlight. The last full moon in concert with Plutonian themes. Pluto is conjunct the moon, although in Aquarius, like you're bridging the worlds, you're between the worlds. It's the end of a cycle that you've been living through, a Plutonian cycle that has been happening in your life since 2008, regarding matters to do with the following: health, sickness, pets, rentals, landlords, tenancies, jobs, service, servitude, karmic debt, real life financial debt. Those themes, pets, animals, have been Plutonianized since 2008. Death of pets. We all have them, but you got deep in the thick of it all. Death and rebirth around work and health matters, intensity here, right? And this is done. And this moon is kind of like, we're spotlighting this last part of the cycle. We're still conjunct Pluto, although he's in a different sign, but it's still got the Plutonian overlay. And so tell me about it. What's this culminating spotlight for? Because on September 2nd to November 19th, Pluto comes back for the last gasp of your 6th house. I've described it to you already. And there's going to be fulfillment, completion, and endings regarding the themes of your 6th house. Because this moon is ruled by Saturn and he's in your 8th house, Saturn supports this lunation in a flowing way. And he says, well, whatever you're ending in the workhouse can ka-ching into bigger chunks of money. I don't know what that looks like. You tell me, retirement packages, or because you have culminating completion energies connected to animals or health matters, there's a financial benefit or some financial positivity as a result. because also the Neptune is retrograde. You're kind of coming into clarity. You're not so confused about your shared resources with your spouse, your significant others involved with Pluto in the seventh house, your savings, your kind of like investment monies, your retirement monies. There's a clearing of some confusion, especially September through to November, in a flowing positive way. And because this moon is in a trine to where the Uranus conjunction happened to happen with Mars, there is this energy about that as well. Like, what is the shocking change of direction, the surprising catapult you're going to make in your career? Because honestly, with that energy, something's changing in the next couple of years, if not months, a couple months, around your career direction. Around you're changing, something's changing. It's surprising. It involves freedom, cutting away, quitting, ending, or reinvention because of Pluto moon energies. Sometimes when I just see Algol Uranus in someone's career house off with their heads, maybe somebody in your hierarchical structures that gets fired, or you get fired. And there could be that kind of energy playing out September through to November 19th. And so be aware of that. But any endings in work and career that are there, although they may surprise you, it's also very positive. It's in a mini grand trine to Neptune and Uranus. And yeah, and the lunation lord is protecting this trine, making it look good on your finances. So hopefully those stories make sense. And let's keep on rolling to the Virgo, sun, moon, and rising sign. I think for you guys, this new moon, full moon in your sixth house speaks. Sixth house. Give me a minute. You see what happens, right? That's what I'm telling you about the moon, right? I have to go back a day to catch the moon in the right place. Okay, the moon is at 16, but the moon's not. It's really at 29. Someone really went after me on that. And I'm like, no, guys, you can't keep the moon. She's moving too quickly at 29 degrees and rotate the dial. So this moon is actually happening. Don't look at the chart. It's not about what you're seeing in the July 20th. This moon is happening July 21st at 29 degrees of Capricorn. It's happening in your fifth house. For Virgo risings, there is a fulfillment, ending, and completion regarding children, regarding romantic and sexual love, regarding inspiration, play, fun, pleasure, but also creative projects or entrepreneurial businesses. Completions, but Pluto's been moving through your fifth house of romantic love and all the other themes I outlined since 2008. And this has got this sort of last gasp fulfillment of the last degree of Capricorn, where the Pluto story has been playing out. And in this sense, you're coming to a big spotlight and or completion. September 8th and November 19th, you're likely to see themes that this moon wants to reveal to you becoming obvious to you. Saturn rules this full moon in the fifth house. He's in the house of marriage. You're already under a lot of stress in long-term committed relationships because of Saturn's presence there until February of 26. And this is highlighting that a little bit, even though it's a sextile energy to the moon. Transformative, metamorphic, crisis, conflict, death and rebirth, renewal, rising from the ashes in romantic, sexual energy with a significant other. You're single, that could bring that kind of transformative love story into your life. Stories with regards to your children come to your attention very intensely September through to November 19th, and possibly involve themes to do with what Saturn can represent with Neptune: addictions, constraints, constrictions, hardship. So pay attention to that. This is adult children. Obviously, your 5-year-old in kindergarten isn't dealing the heavy stuff up, I hope. Anytime I see a moon of any kind in a fertility house, watch out for pregnancy. Same with Venus or Jupiter here. Full moon, fullness, full light, full belly. So you maybe be fulfilling a pregnancy option. And, I will say this, I'm going to be clear. I mean, most people who are Virgo rising, if you're of a certain age, and since 2008, you've had miscarriages or abortions, because Pluto does those sorts of things. So does Mars. Well, he's connected to fifth house matters, but you've also maybe had toxic, very difficult romantic love liaisons that left you like, really, really traumatized as well, including the darker side of that, which can be power, control, and abuse, and sometimes violence. Now, there's an ending with a full moon, not just, it is always an ending, completion of a cycle, but this is more than just, any old cycle. It's the Pluto cycle. The dark fathers have been raging through your fifth house now for a long time. So look to that squarely. I do want to note that this full moon does flow to Neptune in the house of significant others and themes of addiction, drug abuse, all of that, and the tides rolling back. And there's clarity here around those matters. It's an interesting placement because it may be about your partner, it may be about you, because the AC and the axis of AC, self and other, is activated by the Saturn Neptune stories. If you've been deluded or eluded, or your partner has, about who the other person is, the tide is rolling back to see each other more clearly, not to be rose-colored glasses about the relationship for either of you. And yet the flow between the moon to Neptune, as the confusion rolls away, and the surprises of Uranus are important. That your Uranus is on Algol, which is off with their heads. There can be some exciting, exhilarating, and even wealth-generating opportunities with Algol, though, as well, coming off the ninth house. And you and your partner may have some positive developments financially, because although the fifth house is mostly romance and sex, it's also the good fortune house, and involves gambling and speculation and financial win through winning money. And I don't know, all goes a well star. And so this can prop you up for a position to be financially lucky if the money is coming from ninth house places, which is usually governmental bodies, which most lotteries are, just saying. Or there's an opportunity, especially September through November, for something to do with foreign places and foreign shores, travel maybe, and your relationship to a significant other, or a spiritual community that you are shocked and surprised that you're going to join. And I say, like, any community that has a shared spiritual ideology or philosophy is the ninth house. And with the sun also, of course, in the house of groups of belonging, some of you may be joining a group of belonging with your partner or by yourself. Lastly, pleasure. What brings you pleasure? That's the fifth house. That's why joy, that's why Venus has her joy here. And yet, if there are pleasures that don't serve you because Neptune, they are addictive or self-defeating or escapist, there's a real revolutionary energy going on, because you're completing a cycle around pleasure in a positive way. And for some of you, there may be a reformulation around your relationship with substances that bring pleasure but not joy, whatever they may be. Just as a possibility. Next video I do just before the moon, a day before, will be all about the nodes of fate, so stay tuned for that. I'm going by days, I apologize, not hours. And then we are into the next narrative of Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Every time I get to Libra, I usually have a chocolate break, but I'm not in a chocolate environment. So I'm just going to say, hang in there. This is where I start to feel tired. Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. First of all, there is a full moon at the end degrees of Capricorn. This is where Pluto's been traveling since 2008. The full moon's the last gasp of a full moon, when Pluto's still going to come back into this part of your sky, September 2nd to November 19th. To me, it means the full moon will be giving us the full Monty in that time frame. You're going to see a spotlight shed on your mother relationship, fourth house, on your childhood stories, fourth house, on your relationship to your ancestral line and what you were taught and what you learned as a child. And you're literally going to be squaring off to look at it, squaring to your ascendant, to inspect it, and to excavate it. And it will look like a lot of work to do with family stuff from your family of origin this fall. Full moon, full light, co-join with Pluto, one sign over in a house of good fortune. Uranus with Mars in your eighth house of inheritances. Some of you, not all of you, will have some inheritance money coming through this full moon in the 6 months that follow. Others will have major changes to do with property, land, home, real estate, and probably financial abundance. Because as well, you have the energy of Neptune rolling back the confusion in the sixth house. Anything to do with health matters and domicile matters, rental properties, anything to do with addictions and self-undoing especially are rolling back for you so that you can get clear about those things. And honestly, the moon is full and she represents the home and nest itself, even though she's in stoic and difficult Capricorn, which I didn't talk about in this video. It's for the next one. But if you've been sort of enduring in the home, like you've been living in different homes that you don't really want to be in, and this is true ever since 2008, or there's just something about home alone, like, new moons, full moons, new moon, full moons have been going on with the Pluto zone of your chart, right? Transformation through the home stories, but it's not always been a bed of roses. That's changing. That cycle is coming to a full-on stop, right? It's the end of the completion of it. But it would indicate that this last full moon for Libra is going to transform you by investigating and revealing to you things that have been hidden, 8 and 4, so that you can liberate yourself from the family of origin stories. I grew up in poverty. I grew up with an abusive dad or mom. I was told that I'll never amount to anything. What are these things that are under the surface? Do you have a narcissistic parent? I mean, some of you might have, because Pluto going through the fourth house may have made you aware that a parent was a narcissistic person, and that awareness may have began to be clear to you ever since 2008. So look to September 2000 of this year to 24 to November 19 to be very revealing around those matters. And finally, completion, change of home, especially with Neptune, Saturn in the sixth house, a new property, likely a rental, but it could be a purchase because Uranus, Mars, shock and awe, which on the star Algol could be that you're going to be able to purchase a new home, and it's going to be shocking and surprising, or rent a new home in the 6 months that follows this full moon. Scorpio, sun, moon, and rising. So a full moon in Pluto territory, Pluto traveling through Capricorn ever since 2008, is a story about completing a cycle to do with your third house. Now, third house is your younger sibling, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces, and nephews, the daily life, the daily commute, the places you go, the hood, the neighborhood. At the very best, I'd say a full light moon completion is a change of neighborhood environment for a lot of you Scorpios in the next 6 months. Look to September 2nd through to November 19th this year to show you what that's really about. And because you also see that house as a place of writing, as a place of your online social media world, as a place of skills-based learning, there's a fulfillment, completion, energy, picking up speed here as well. And you do want to note that the Lord of the Moon is in your fifth house of creativity, entrepreneurship, joy, fun, play, and pleasure. And so certainly your output that you have here, like, are you producing a blog, writing a book? Are you in the social media world quite active? A big, tight completion, full energy, 29, is saying something is coming to a finish. Are you finishing the book? Are you completing something to do with your neighborhood? Like, you're done with it. You're out of here. But wherever you go, Neptune's pulling back the confusion and illusion of what pleasures really can bring us joy. And you may be moving to a place that you really like. I mean, really, really feel like good in that environment, because you've been confused perhaps about where you should be. Ongoing since 2011, Pluto and Neptune have been in the same kind of sextile relationship between Capricorn and Pisces. And it could have indicated a lot of uncertainty about neighbors and neighborhood environments in general. And also the moon is flowing to Uranus. Now that's where the Mars-Uranus conjunction is happening on the 15th, exactly. Long story short, what the heck is going on in a positive way from this moon regarding all the themes of the third house, and a significant other in business or love, or something that you're putting into the popular public zone of reality that you're creating in an entrepreneurial or creative artistic way, could go viral. Because of this. Will it go viral on the moon or in the 2 weeks that follow? Maybe, but it could also be about what happens September 2nd to November 19th for viral content in the marketplace, Uranus in the 7th, shocking you, surprising you, etc. That's a very strong possibility. If you're listening to the live premiere and you forgot to hit the like button and subscribe, would you think about doing that? It would be wonderful if you did, and that will help me help my channel grow. And, that kind of thing really is useful. So next we're going to talk about the trine energy. There's a trine. Did I talk about it yet? My brain is firing down. I haven't said anything. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising. Try COVID, everyone. It's really good for brain damage. Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. The big full moon is happening in your second house. Tell me about it. How have you been with your money, your savings, your earnings, your possessions ever since 2008? Rags to riches, maybe not really. Pluto here makes you wealthy. But it also can bring you incredible intensity. Some people may lose all their money and then regain all their money, but it's not like Uranus up and down like a yo-yo. It's an evolutionary titanic force to do with your face, your speech, your values and self-esteem, what you eat and what you save in your money and what you make in your money and how your financial wealth is. Pluto is a wealth god, a god of riches. Some of you Sagittarius got wealthy during the 2008 till now transit. I have a girlfriend, I believe that's when she got all the divorce money and made a ton of money off her divorce, for example. I know another Sag who went back to work and got able to collect a lot of money during that time. He thought he'd retired, but he hadn't retired. And then he made a lot more money because he was working again. But he also lost money in that era as well. So, I saw a lot of intensity on the finances for the Sagittarius I know. Okay, so that's over, right? You're done with that. In Indian astrology, your second house is your family, your mom, your dad, your siblings, a very intimate family you grew up with. And so maybe that also applied for intensity as well. But however, this is now a cycle that is particularly done and will not be back in your lifetime. But we have this time that this moon is pointing to, September 2nd to November 19th, because that is the 29th degree that Pluto will head back to. And when Pluto gets back there in the fall, you're basically going to see the degree of the lunation activated. And therefore, I do believe it's connected. What's going on in money, wealth, storylines for you, not only in the 6 months and or 2 weeks after the moon, but particularly September, October, November. Saturn says it could do with legacy wealth, inheritance, property, real estate. It could have to do as well with money from an elder family member from your childhood, like a grandparent, maybe, or just money from your family of origin. That's possible, right? And of course, the sun is in the inheritance house. So that's possible because this is an axis of money and resources. The other thing that could happen is you could buy a property, possess a property, sell a property over the course of the next 6 months, and looking at September through November for the action plan. And, the moon itself, is flowing to the planet Neptune. And so it would be a dream property, a dream home, a dream sell. It's realistic and sober-minded. The price is right. You're not daydreaming about fantastical outcomes, especially in today's crashing housing market. And then we also can note that you have the flow to Uranus. That's really good for rental energies too. You want rent a property out or become a landlord yourself. I am just about to lose the battery here. I have to stop the share and plug this baby in. Oh my God. I just got this back into a plug in the nick of time. Sorry, guys. I'm recording. Yeah. Back in. Sorry, guys. All right. And finally, with Uranus in the 6th house, Neptune in the 4th house, the moon in the 2nd house. Is there any chance that some of you are going to make a radical change of dietary style? Because Uranus is in the house of sickness. You said, I'll never be a vegetarian, I'll never be a vegan. Some of you are going to do dramatic pivots in how you and what you eat. That's where I'm going with it. And just because Mars rules your 12th house, these are also particularly good, and Neptune's rolling back. If you were following family paths of addiction and everyone in your family drank or did weed on the daily, you might be really pulling back from that as well. But I almost expect with the full moon completing in the house of what you put in your mouth, massive changes for many of you because you will not eat the same foods again. Something is changing, or eat, smoke the same things or drink the same. So a lot of you are going to change that story in your life as well. Maybe quit alcohol, for example. As Neptune can rule that as well. And Algol, let me go back, alcohol. So the star Algol is connected to alcohol in the ancient tradition. And that's being like literally Mars, Uranus, kabam, kaboosh, especially for the Sag rising, but even Sag sun and moon. You could be like radically cutting out any alcohol from your life as a result of what we're seeing on this full moon. So let me know if that happens, if that's something that occurs in the 6 months that follow, with a special attention to September, October, November. Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. It is a full moon in you. You are full. You are light and bright and big. You're shining brightly. What's been going on here? This is the last full moon that involves Pluto, because Pluto comes back here September 2nd through to November 19th. This indicates that you are going to be very bright at that time and powerful, and maybe getting some riches going on in your story. But you've also been under a lot of Plutonian energy since 2008 and had a lot of death in your life. People died. You felt like you've died and been born again. You've been doing the old death and resurrection story in your identity for quite a long time. And that's coming to a completion, of course, because your Pluto going through your second house can bring you wealth. And that's going to be going on now for the next 20 years. I want to note that this is a lunation that's ruled by Saturn in your third house. Honestly, you could have some financial benefit this fall through a sibling. You could have some financial benefit for travel opportunities. You could have some financial benefits coming through the vibe of riches through things that you are teaching or learning. I'm just making stuff up, but Saturn's in that third house, and these are some of the meanings. Saturn is with Neptune, and Neptune is in a flowing relationship to the moon at 29 degrees of Capricorn. And what I love about Neptune retrograde here is any kind of confusion and illusion you had around a sibling, regarding neighborhood matters, travel opportunities, situations to do with teaching or learning, any confusions are rolling back, and you're holding a bright light, a spotlight there. I think there's a lot going on too with the Uranus. That Mars conjunction to Uranus just happened, right? And Uranus is still in Algol. The fifth house is a money house. Algol is a money star. Algol. And Uranus Mars can be shock and awe, surprises. They're not always bad. They're not always bad. People are afraid of it, but it's not always bad. And I wonder, there is a possibility, just for some of you, this is general bulk of astrology, that you may have come into some exciting money, or will be. It could happen within 2 weeks of the moon, right? After the moon, or any time in the fall. And just because you're on an I thou axis and the sun is shining in the house of a significant other, and maybe that your partner also can come into some significant financial resources, and this is going to benefit you both in a kind of money luck way. That said, there may be some surprises coming through in your sexual romantic life or with your children, but they're positive, and it's flowing to you, and it's flowing to Neptune. And it's also good for dreamy, beautiful travel opportunities involving a romantic partner and a significant other, because of where the sun is sitting. So not just a dating story. With the sun in the seventh house, solar figure, legal contracts and agreements belong to the sun. I'm just sitting with this thought in my head. Give me a minute. I took out planets we didn't need. There may be some kind of boss, authority figure, someone with power that is a part of the next few months, giving you some opportunity to increase your wealth, Pluto, but also to maybe travel. Okay, that's a possible outcome here as well. Because once Mars moves through Gemini, which will take 6 weeks, by the way, he gets there around now, July 20th. Once he gets there, he's going to continually say, in a house of his joy, with Jupiter, work opportunities, work opportunities, work opportunities, and maybe change of home. All right, I am one of you, Aquarius. Oh, I unplugged my microphone. Maybe I'll put it back in. Hang on. I forgot when I moved myself. Sorry, guys. I'm like, oh my God. Sorry. I don't know who got the crappy sound, but I apologize. Maybe we can get the at least a half decent microphone. All right. So let's get going with you guys. I hope the mic changed when I plugged it back in. Let's see what happened. This is tough when the battery dies when you're recording. It was almost fully charged, but the laptop just decompressioned on me. I just want to check the audio. Which mic am I hooked up? Yeah, I'm hooked back up. Okay. So let's go back and talk about Aquarius. Now, Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising, what goes on is a last full moon at the 29th Anaretic degree of Capricorn that also involves the Plutonian theme. That's because Pluto will come back, of course, September the 2nd through until November 19th and sit at 29 degrees and then never be back there again. So obviously this moon has to connect to what Pluto will be doing this fall. Nothing is random in the sky. It's a tick-tock of God's clock. So full light completion in your house of spiritual liberation. Full light completion fulfillment in the house of financial gain from far off lands and foreign shores. Now, just to use me quickly as an example, I began to generate online revenue after 2008 when Pluto entered into my borderless income international sources of revenue house. That's when I sold a product to tarot.com that I made money from for 10 years and then began to work in online magazines and much more. So this whole digital borderless income and revenue far off foreign shores thing has been playing out for some of us Aquariuses. If you didn't do that and Pluto went through your Capricorn house since 2008, it's spiritual awakening. It's death and rebirth, right? You got to die before you die. Death of the ego, death of the small self. Go read my Awakened Dreamer blog. And that's been true for a lot of Aquariuses. And this story of awakening is coming to a culmination, a completion, or the borderless income. Pluto here may have had you tackling addictions, had you tackling transformative stories to do with your own self undoing. And this moon is completing all of those stories and it's fulfilling its last, the last hurrah. The moon itself is being ruled by a Saturn in a money and earnings, resources, self-esteem, and values house. Saturn is trying to structure things. He's retrograde. You're revising, going backwards. Neptune's rolling back the tide on confusion, illusion, and delusion. You're really trying to square away with sober-minded, realistic structures for long-term savings and the way that money and resources can be useful to you. And as that is happening, Saturn is watching that moon in his kingdom and goes, we can do that through those 12th house places. We can still do borderless income and international revenue. And if you want to also kick a bad habit, Saturn gives you the grit and determination to do it. And Neptune rolls back the illusion that any addictive substance is actually good for you, or dependency can be good for you at all. And so this moon can complete a cycle of dependency. Now, some of you know I'm running the Wine Lovers Middle Way, but I'm also right now not drinking any alcohol for the last 10 days. I do this rather routinely, but I'm looking at the alcohol-free lifestyle as a choice. We'll see. I want to come by it authentically. I want to be able to translate my journey to other people. I think I'm more like someone who'll teach the Wine Lovers Middle Way rather than the complete abstinence, but we'll see where it goes. And so I'm giving me as an example. What are you doing, Aquarius? Share in the comments. How is your spiritual life, your addictions, your self-undoing? How have those things been in play in a dramatic way since 2008? I just want to share, I separated from my marriage before that, but the final kibosh was around 2008 when we shared a mutual home, and we kind of shared with our kids, even though I separated in 2000, marriage, divorce, 4 or 5. And I found that it was a very intense experience, but it also led me to be more I don't know, stress coping with alcohol. So maybe that would have been the onset of my problem drinking era. I'm just confessing aloud. What were you doing with addiction, self-undoing, and bad habits since 2008? Because it might have been exacerbated by that Pluto transit. And now there's a completing, ending, fulfilling narrative. Look to September 2nd to November 19th for more clarity on that. Because Pluto is making all Aquarius is quite powerful. We are going to be like the lead energy for humanity in many ways. Jupiter Saturn conjunction here back in December of 2020, 21, 20, I can't remember now, 20 is important. It is critical narrative for us being queued up for the whole world to be a lead energy. And now Pluto's in our sign. So you're going to find a lot of Aquarians becoming predominant sort of movers and shakers for the world. And, Pluto is transforming our very identity over the next 20 years. So get ready. The energy of the full moon at 29 Capricorn does flow to Neptune and to Uranus, indicating positive opportunities, especially September through November, for a change of home. And trust me, Uranus Mars conjunction, watch the webinar, go see my video on this, will change most homes of most Aquarians, something in the home, from the home, or the home is changing again because of this. And because you have Uranus on Algol, wealth can change your home, right? And also dramatic events can change your home. And yet this full moon indicates that September, October, November, the completion of a full moon promise, a completion in the 12th. You could move to a foreign land, a foreign shore. You may change your home that way. You could have a kind of financial renaissance that allows you to possess a new home. You could have some kind of breakthrough regarding home and home matters. And that can include rental properties as well as purchases. So that's my story with you guys, and I'm going to stick with it as our story. I'll be doing a separate video on this moon to cover the nodal axis story, and then I'll be coming up closer to the lunation. Last but not least, Pisces, sun, moon, and rising sign. You are, I can't believe I said that for the first time in years, last but not least. Best and always best, last and always last, Pisces, sun, moon, and rising. What we got going here is a full moon that is completing a cycle that Pluto began in 2008 in your 11th house. Elder siblings, friends and allies and benefactors, social groups and networks, and career financial gains, to name a few. That has been transformative and destabilizing and revelatory and revolutionary, and metamorphic for you. It's been a place of crisis and conflict, perhaps since 2008. And those people in your life who are your friendship circles and all of that may have also passed. You may have had the death of friends during that cycle. Now, you also might want to consider September 2nd to November 19th, because that's when Pluto goes back over the moon and unfortunately could indicate some losses in your life. I don't want to scare anybody, but friends live up there. So yeah. And sometimes elder sibling. Well, yeah, one above you. Pluto going back anaretic, sitting on the 29th degree for those 3 months in the fall can indicate one last gasp of what you've already known to be true since 2008. People you know die. However, Pluto here can bring you amazing results when it comes to the other meanings of the 11th, because he's going back for one last check in your career, great gains from your 10th house of career. He's going back for one last check about what you want to achieve regarding your long-range dreams, goals, and wishes for your life. And there's a transformative intensity as you shine a spotlight, a full light, and a completion energy, fulfillment energy in that 11th house of good spirit. The 11th house is a fame degree. The moon is about popular with the people. Some of you may have a surge of sudden celebrity or recognition, September, October, November. There is a flow. There's a flow between this full moon as it trines Uranus for some shocking surprises, unexpected developments, and a breakthrough change regarding your local neighborhood, sibling relationships, skills-based learning, and travel opportunities. And you also could look at the flow to Neptune, who's retrograding with the lunation lord in the house of you. You're kind of holding all the cards in your hand. Saturn is like sober, realistic, and serious and sage-like, and you're trying to own that energy. He can create health problems when he's in the first house if that's your ascendant. But for the most part, he's showing you something by wisening you up like a wise guy. And with Neptune retrograde here at the tip of a mini grand trine, your sort of like rose colored glasses and self delusion are rolling back. And Saturn is also saying, revise and reset myself, my identity, who I am, how I want to appear to the world. My character is being revised, and you're being serious about the revision. And then September, October, November, you may get some support from an elder sibling. You may, who's powerful or rich. You may get some money from an elder sibling. You may get some money from a friend, ally, or benefactor to support your revision. Because Uranus is in your third house, it can be a massive change also regarding your local environment, including your neighborhood. Jupiter is giving you lots of abundance and opportunity in and from the home, and to do with real estate and property. And with Mars hitting Jupiter there for the very first time in 12 years, you're likely to have a radical, prosperous opportunity to change your home or do something to construct, renovate, rebuild your home, that kind of thing in the next year. But also maybe in connection to the word environment, local environment, neighbor, neighborhood, that can very much be a big change as well, but a positive one. So looking to September, October, November for evidence of that, with Mars traveling through the fourth house as well as the fall approaches, right? He's there till September 2nd in your fourth house. That can indicate travel away from your home. And of course, short distance travel is where Uranus is sitting. So maybe travel away from your home connected to siblings happening as a possibility. We're talking about with the Mars story, that travel could likely be anytime through till September 2nd. All right. Did I say September 2nd? Yeah, because that's when Mars will move roughly September 2nd into Cancer. That's it. I can't believe I got through this. I've recorded 2 videos today. I attended a live premiere, and I love my work, but every time and then it's just like, now this is where I would go for a lap swim in my saltwater pool in my mansion and decompress. Or if you're still listening to me at the end of this video, how do you guys decompress from putting a lot of energy into your work? I sometimes can have a tea and read a book, go for a walk. I would prefer to swim. Now I'm going to walk to the farmer's market, and I'm also going to go get a lottery ticket. But my old go-to would be someone pour me a glass of wine, and it's already 4:00 here. I'll be like, it's almost time. Big hugs.